Shalom. This is Hawoo. So I was blessed with some good information while I'm sitting here on my cousin's deck, waiting for him again. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and start reading this to you guys, so you can hear what I heard. And when I get to the good part, I'll say, "Here comes the good part," but I'm gonna read it all so you know what's up. The Wars of the Jews, or History of the Destruction of Jerusalem, Flavius Josephus. Now, Hyrcanus was heir to the kingdom, and to him did his mother commit it before she died. But I just had this man named Artisbulus. Artisbulus was superior to him in power and in magnanimity. Oh, I can't say certain words. And when there was a battle between them, two decided to dispute about the kingdom near Jericho. The greatest part deserted Hyrcanus. The greatest part deserted Hyrcanus and went over to Artisbulus. But Hyrcanus, with those of his party who stayed with him, fled to Antonia and got into his power the hostages that might be for his preservation, which was Artisbulus' wife with her children. But they came to back start hurting. Sorry, y'all. What was that? Oh, but they came to an agreement. Before things should come to extremities, that Artisbulus should be king, and Hyrcanus should resign that up, but retain all the rest of his dignities, as being the king's brother. Hereupon they were conciliatory to each other in the temple, and embraced one another in a very kind manner, while the people stood around about them. They also changed their houses, while Artisbulus went to the royal palace, and Hyrcanus retired to the house of Artisbulus. Now those other people which were at variance with Artisbulus were afraid upon his unexpected obtaining the government, and especially this concerned Antipater, whom Artisbulus hated of old. He was by birth an Idumean, and one of the principal of that nation, on account of his ancestors and riches and other authority to him belonging. He also persuaded Hyrcanus to fly to Aretas. So I wonder how they flying somewhere. You hear that? He persuaded Hyrcanus to fly to Aretas. That's an interesting question. The king of Arabia, and to lay claim to the kingdom As also he persuaded Aretas to receive Hyrcanus and to bring him back to his kingdom. He also cast great reproaches upon Artisibulus as to his morals, and gave great condemnation to Hyrcanus, and exhorted Aretas to receive him, and told him how becoming a fouling it would be for him, who ruled so great a kingdom, to afford his assistance to such as are injured, alleging that Hyrcanus was treated unjustly by being deprived of that dominion which belonged to him by the what's this what prerog prerogate prerogative what is that prerogative? Yep. By the prerogative of his birth. And when he had predisposed them both to do what he would have them, he took Hyrcanus by night and ran away from the city, and continued his flight with great swiftness. He escaped to a place called Petra. How is he flying, y'all? You see this? What do they have that they're flying at or on? Swiftness. He escaped to the place called Petra, which is the royal seat of the king of Arabia, where he put Hyrcanus into Aretas' hand, and by discoursing much with him and gaining upon him with many presents, he prevailed with him and gave him an army that might restore him to his kingdom. This army consists of 50,000 footmen and horsemen, against which Artisibulus was not able to make resistance, but was deserted in his first onset and was driven to Jerusalem. He also had been taken at first by force. Was this Scarius, the Roman general. If Scarius, the Roman general, had not come and seasonably interposed himself and raised the siege, this Scarius was sent into Syria from Armenia by Pompey the Great when he fought against Tigrans. So Scarius came to Damascus, which had been lately taken by Metellus and Lollius, and caused them to leave the place. And upon his hearing how the affairs of Judea stood, he made haste thither as to a certain booty. As soon as therefore as we was come into the country, there came ambassadors from both the brothers, each of them desiring his assistance. But Artisibulus 300 talents had more weight with him than the justice of the cause, which some, when Scarius had received. He sent to Herod. He sent a herald, to Hyrcanus and the Arabians, and threatened them with the resentment of the Romans and of Pompey unless they would raise the siege. So Aretas was terrified and retired out of Judea to Philadelphia, as did Scarus return to Damascus again. Nor was Aristobulus satisfied with escaping out of his brother's hands, but gathered all his forces together and pursued his enemies and fought them at the place called Paparon, and slew about 6,000 of them, and together with them Antipater's brother Phalion. When Hyrcanus and Antipater were thus deprived of their hopes from the Arabians, they transferred the same to their adversaries. And because Pompey had passed through Syria and was come to Damascus, they fled to him for assistance, and without any bribes, they made the same equitable pleas that they had used to Aretas, and besought him to hate the violent behavior of Aristobulus, and to bestow the kingdom on him to whom it justly belonged, both on account of his good character and on account of his superiority in age. However, neither was Aristobulus wanting to himself in this case, as relying on the bribes that Scarius had received. He was also there himself, and adorned himself after a manner of most agreeable to royalty, that he was able. But he soon thought it beneath him to come in such a servile manner, and could not endure to serve his own ends in a way so much more abject than he was used to. So he departed from Doylespalus, or something like that. At this, his behavior, Pompey had great indignation. Hyrcanus also and his friends made great intercessions to Pompey. So he took not only his Roman forces, but many of his Syrians auxiliaries, and marched against Aristobulus. But when he had passed by Pella and Scythopolis, and was come to Corea, where you enter into the country of Judea. Did y'all just hear what I just read? Listen. It says he took not only his Roman forces, but many of his Syrian auxiliaries, and marched against Aristobulus. But when he had passed by Pella and Scythopolis, and was come to Corea, where you enter into the country of Judea, when you go up to it through the Mediterranean parts, he heard that Aristobulus was fled to Alexandria, which is a stronghold fortified with the utmost magnificence and situated upon a high mountain. And he sent to him a command and commanded him to come down. Now his inclination was to try his fortune in a battle, since he called in such a imperious manner, rather than to comply with that call. However, he saw the multitude were in great fear, and his friends exhorted him to consider what the power of the Romans was, and how it was irresistible. So he complied with their advance and came down to Pompeii. And when he had made a long apology for himself and for the justness of his cause, and taking the government, he returned to his fortress. And when his brother invited him again to plead his cause, he came down and spake about the justice of it, and then went away without any hindrance from Pompeii. So he was between hope and fear. And when he came down, it was to prevail with Pompey to allow him the government entirely. And when he went up to the citadel, it was that he might not appear to debase himself too low. However, Pompey commanded him to give up his fortified place and force him to write to every one of their governors to yield them up, they having had this charge given them, to obey no letters, but what were on his own handwriting. Accordingly, he did not what he was ordered to do. He didn't do it, but had still an indignation at what was done, and retired to Jerusalem, and prepared to fight with Pompey. But Pompey did not give him time to make any preparations for a siege, but followed him at his heels. He was also obligated to make haste in his attempt by the death of Mithridates, something like that, of which he was informed about Jericho. Now here is the most fruitful country in Judea, which bears a vast number of palm trees, besides the blossom tree, whose spouts they cut with sharp stones, and at the incisions they gather the juice, which drops down like tears. So I got a mission for my brothers and sisters. You want to find Jericho? Let me show you how. Now here, Jericho is the most beautiful, right? The most fruitful country in Judea, right? Jericho bears a vast number of palm trees. So wherever there's a vast number of palm trees, beside the blossom tree, who sprouts, I don't know why it says spouts, who sprouts, they cut with sharp stones. At the incisions, they gather the juice, which drops like tears. So if we find the blossom tree and the palm tree growing in a large number, that's Jericho, and that would be the land of Judea. So get the hunt, guys, get the hunting. That's just a way you can find Jericho. So Pompey pitched his tent in that place one night and then hasted away the next morning to Jerusalem. But Aristobulus was so affrighted at his approach that he came and met him by the way of supplication. He also promised him money and that he would deliver up both himself and the city into his disposal, and thereby mitigated the anger of Pompey. Yet did not he perform any of the conditions he had agreed to. For Aristobulus' party would not so much as admit Gabinius into the city, who was sent to receive the money that he had promised. That was interesting, y'all. So it's telling you that Judea is next to Korea, and is also telling you that Jericho is in Judea, and a bunch of palm trees grow there, and a blossom tree whose sprouts they cut with a stone, and its juice leaks like tears. It looks like tears. So that's a perfect way to find where this place is. Very easy. Should be easy to find. That's something you probably could just Google real quick, Don't put the names, but put, where's what place does a bunch of palm trees grow, and also blossom trees whose sprouts, when you cut them, they look like teardrops. When you cut them, when the juice runs, they look like teardrops. That's simple. But again, I want to thank the person that gave me this wonderful information. I really do, and I hope my brothers and sisters enjoyed that one, because I did. I really, really did. My nose is stuffed up, and I don't know why, because it's beautiful out here. Look at these wonderful trees, yo. I love sitting out here. You get to feel that breeze and stuff just fall back like a chicken jack. You know what I mean? Look at this, man. But this joint be dropping a lot. This joint right here, this joint be dropping a lot of branches. We 10 people cars up. But yeah, y'all, it's nice and shady out here, and this dude taking forever. You don't know, I'm about to leave. I ain't gonna be driving in no traffic. But yeah, guys, appreciate y'all, man. I really do. Alright, y'all. Y'all enjoy yourselves. Shalom.